From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired!
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to Firstpost America. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. And over the next few minutes, we'll take you from the United States and around the world, covering all the top stories of the day. But before that, let's take a look at the latest headlines. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin meet Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. in Manila. The United States announces $500 million in military aid for the Philippines. Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te says a threat from China to any country is a threat to the world. The Taiwanese leader urges nations to unite against Beijing's authoritarian expansion. Incessant rainfall triggers a deadly landslide, killing at least 80 people in the southern Indian state of Kerala. Officials rescue over 250 people trapped under the debris. A train derails in southern Russia, injuring at least 140 passengers. Medical officials say at least 15 people are in the intensive care unit after sustaining serious injuries. And fast food giant McDonald's reports a decline in global sales for the first time since 2020. The CEO of McDonald's says customers are seeking cheaper options as cost of living soars worldwide. We begin in the Middle East, where Lebanon-based Hezbollah says they do not want war, but will fight Israel without any limits if provoked further. A spokesperson for the Iran-backed group says they have begun arming and preparing their long-range precision-guided missiles for war. The group also fired multiple rockets into northern Israel last night. Now tensions between Israel and Hezbollah reached an all-time high after the group fired rockets into the Golan Heights, killing at least 12 children on Sunday. In retaliation, Israel carried out multiple airstrikes in southern Lebanon, killing over 20. Lebanon's foreign minister says they are prepared for an escalation in hostilities, but are urging both sides to prevent a full-blown war.
We think that there will be a little bit of escalation, but not that big. Because the Israelis themselves are going to be hit. And if they go against Lebanon, it's going to be a big war. And they know that. And I don't think they want to do it. They want to solve all problems diplomatically.
The Lebanese foreign minister has also claimed that his government would not be able to stop Hezbollah from escalating tensions against Israel.
We don't want any expansion of the war. We don't want escalation, and we're working on it this way. We don't want escalation. The most important thing is that it's an opportunity for them to do something, it shouldn't be big, because we know we cannot control Hezbollah retaliation as well. So Hezbollah is going to retaliate if they have it. If they have it in the normal situation.
Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the Golan Heights and met families of the children who were killed by Hezbollah. During the interaction with the parents, Prime Minister Netanyahu vowed to respond to Hezbollah with lethality. However, instead of being welcomed, families of the victims protested the Israeli Prime Minister's visit.
He is an unwelcome person in our place. He is a liar and corrupt. He is coming to use the bodies of our children to be on TV. We will not allow this to happen.
We are fighting, our children are at the front. Where are his children? In Miami. Our children are on the front, our children are fighting. Where are his children?
In an effort to calm rising tensions, the United States has rushed a diplomatic delegation to Israel, hoping to ward off further escalation. The American mediators are expected to meet both Israeli and Lebanese officials in a desperate attempt to prevent another war in the Middle East. Here in the United States, top intelligence officials say Russia, Iran, and China are recruiting Americans to spread propaganda ahead of the presidential election in November. The concerning revelation comes after a stormy few weeks in the United States politics, which saw an assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump and President Joe Biden exit the race. Now, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence has warned Americans that whatever content they consume on social media could be foreign propaganda coming from fellow Americans. The disinformation could be about presidential candidates or hot-button issues like immigration or the war in Gaza. And fake websites impersonating American media outlets and AI-generated social media profiles are just two of the primary methods which to spread disinformation. According to U.S. intelligence officials, Russia continues to pose the greatest threat to the presidential election. Networks linked to the Kremlin are reportedly hiring marketing and communications firms to create digital propaganda. While the intel officials did not mention the names of presidential candidates, their comments suggested that Russia is in fact trying to help Donald Trump secure re-election. After the assassination attempt, Russian agencies reportedly amplified claims that Democratic rhetoric led to the shooting. They even circulated conspiracy theories suggesting that President Biden or the Ukrainian government was behind the attack. Meanwhile, the intelligence report warns that Iran is trying to influence the election by undermining Donald Trump's candidacy. This stems from the former president ending the Iran nuclear deal with Tehran, reimposing sanctions and ordering the killing of the Iranian general Qasem Soleimani. The report further adds that Iran is also supporting anti-Israel protests in the United States over the war in Gaza. And intel officials say China is more cautious about the U.S. presidential race when compared to Russia and Iran. In fact, Beijing is more likely to use disinformation to target congressional candidates who have voiced their opinions against President Xi Jinping or have raised the issue of freedom in Tibet. Now, Russia, China, and Iran have all refuted allegations of meddling in the U.S. elections. However, the concerning intel report highlights that covert attacks are being carried out against America's democratic values. And now shifting focus to South America, thousands of anti-government protesters marched through the streets toward the presidential palace in Venezuela's capital, Caracas, on Monday. This after incumbent President Nicolas Maduro was declared the winner of Sunday's presidential election. Maduro's re-election has come under massive scrutiny, with the opposition alleging fraud in the counting of votes. On Monday, at least one person died and 46 people were arrested as security forces tried to disperse the demonstrators. Police fired tear gas and rubber bullets on the furious protesters who challenged the victory claimed by Maduro. In fact, some of them even ripped Maduro campaign posters from lampposts and set them on fire. Meanwhile, at least two statues of Maduro's mentor and predecessor, Hugo Chavez, were toppled in the country.
I'll fight for my country's democracy. They stole from us because he is genocidal. We must fight for democracy in this country. We need to keep on fighting for the young people, the youth, and my grandchildren, and my children who left this country. They left.
Yes, we are tired. I have 23 years living under the same government, and it has always been the same. No, that's enough. I want a future for my daughter. I have not been able to study. I got out of high school, and I could not go to college because I had to work.
Now, calling his re-election fair, Maduro says he knows how to handle the anti-government protesters.
We have been following all of the acts of violence promoted by the extreme right. I can tell the people of Venezuela that if they have done harm, we are acting. We already know this movie, so once more, along with the civil, military, and police union, we are acting. We already know how they operate. We have witnessed a group of violent events. Right now I could show you 100 videos of violent attacks. We could label them criminal and terrorist.
Public anger swelled after the National Electoral Council of Venezuela formally gave Maduro a third term in office and extended his Socialist Party's 25-year rule. The polling body said Maduro won 51% of the vote, while his main opponent, Edmundo Gonzalez, secured 44% of the vote. However, the opposition called the results fraudulent and said Gonzalez gained over 70% of the vote.
I want to tell the entire Venezuelan people, with total responsibility, that we will enforce respect for the will expressed yesterday through your votes. This is the only path to peace. We have in our hands the tallies that demonstrate our categorical and mathematically irreversible victory.
I believe it is relevant to say that in these 73% of tallies, the votes that they include are more than 2 million for Nicolas Maduro and over 6 million for Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia.
Meanwhile, Venezuela's electoral body, which is controlled by Maduro's loyalists, haven't released tallies from all of the 30,000 polling stations. Along with Venezuelans, several countries, including the United States, as well as international bodies such as the United Nations, have called on the Venezuelan authorities to release the results of individual polling stations.
The Secretary General calls for complete transparency and encourages the timely publication of the election results and a breakdown by polling stations. The Secretary General trusts that all electoral disputes will be addressed and resolved peacefully and calls on all Venezuelan political leaders and their supporters for moderation. He recalls that electoral authorities should undertake their work independently and without interference to guarantee the free expression of the will of the electorate.
Meanwhile, Argentinian President Javier Milei has refused to recognize Maduro's victory, and in response, Caracas has recalled its diplomats from Buenos Aires.
This is a message for the heroic Venezuelan people. The fraud that the dictator Nicolas Maduro has carried out and perpetrated is nothing more nor less than a worthless victory. He may have won a battle. He may believe he has won a battle. However, the most important thing is that the Venezuelan lions woke up, and sooner or later, socialism will end. This impoverishing model is going to end because socialism is always and everywhere a murderous, starving, and impoverishing phenomenon. Cheer up, dear Venezuelans, you will succeed. Keep fighting, don't give up. Long live freedom.
And now several other nations in the Americas, including Costa Rica, Ecuador, Guatemala, Panama, and Peru, have all expressed concerns about the Venezuelan election. Now, as the re-elected Maduro faces criticism both domestically and globally, it remains to be seen what he does next to quell the rising protests. And in the Caribbean, Haitian Prime Minister Garry Conille narrowly escaped a violent attack by armed gangs near a recently reclaimed hospital in Port-au-Prince. Even though the Prime Minister's office said there were no injuries or deaths, security officers were seen scrambling to protect the leader and had to fire shots to cover his exit from the hospital. This harrowing incident highlights the intense struggle between Haitian authorities and powerful criminal gangs vying for control of the capital. Here's our story with more about the brazen attack.
Haiti's Prime Minister Garry Conille narrowly escaped an ambush on Monday after gangs opened fire near a hospital he was visiting in Port-au-Prince. Conille was conducting an interview with CNN when long volleys of gunfire echoed through the nearby streets. Remarkably, Conille continued the interview unperturbed, highlighting the grim normalcy of such violence in the capital. Then, after the interview, as the Prime Minister prepared to leave, the gunfire intensified. The Prime Minister and his entourage were quickly ushered into cars, with security forces providing cover to the fire. Police officers ran for safety amid the hail of bullets. According to a joint statement from the Haitian National Police and the Multinational Security Support Force, there were no confirmed injuries and the Prime Minister safely returned to his office. criminal gangs still control roughly 80% of the capital city, turning daily life into a perilous endeavor for its residents and officials alike. The turmoil started to erupt after the president Jovenel Moise was assassinated in 2021. But the situation exceptionally intensified this year in February when gangs started attacking critical infrastructure in the capital, including Port-au-Prince International Airport and Seaport. This plunged millions into acute food insecurity, with many facing starvation.
This is the way we live, sitting here every day. There is no food unless an organization sends us something to eat. After that, there isn't anything else. They gave us some soap and toothpaste to brush our teeth and kits with other things. Then we can wash our clothes with this soap. This is life without work or trade.
The most urgent matter with children in camps is that when these children move with their families to a camp, it's because they have problems with healthy nutrition, and our role is to help them to develop.
Considering the severity of the situation, the Kenyan-led security mission, which is part of an international effort to stabilize Haiti, began deploying troops to Port-au-Prince in late June. The mission's goal is to bolster the beleaguered Haitian police force in its fight against the gangs. And the hospital's reclamation is seen as a tentative first step towards re-establishing state control in the city. When the Haitian Prime Minister toured the hospital in early July, he said hospitals should not be a war zone. The tour also showed the damage and debris left by the gangs in the medical facility. In recent months, gangs have destroyed and looted several institutions in the country, keeping the health system in crisis.
It's really important for us to regain control of our hospital. In every country in the world, hospitals are not war zones, they're not conflict zones, and they're not confrontation zones either. They're places where people who are ill come to get treatment for their health. People who are already in a vulnerable situation have come to be treated. It should not be a war zone, and we will not accept that.
The interim government, led by Conille, has pledged to restore order and prepare the country for new elections. However, the road to stability is fraught with challenges. Conille, who previously served as Prime Minister from 2011 to 2012 under President Michel Martelly, stepped into the role after his predecessor, Ariel Henry, resigned in March. Henry's resignation followed months of mounting pressure and widespread discontent over his handling of the crisis. So, as Conille navigates the treacherous political landscape, his resolve to bring stability to Haiti remains unwavering. The international community watches closely with the hope that Haiti can emerge from this period of chaos. But for now, the battle for control of Port-au-Prince continues, with the safety of its leaders and citizens hanging in the balance.
And finally, from Turkey, where a controversial new law has been passed targeting the country's stray dog population. The new law allows the government to send up to 4 million dogs to the pound, sparking nationwide protests. While critics fear this could lead to mass culling, the Turkish government insists it's a necessary measure for public safety. Our final report brings you all the details.
On a balmy Monday evening, the Turkish parliament steeped in history and political drama. Politicians buzzed with fervor as the controversial bill was passed. Legislation which was aimed at addressing the fate of Turkey's estimated 4 million stray dogs now includes a clause for culling them. This measure, officials argue, is essential to curb dog attacks and the spread of rabies. Yet for many, it symbolizes an emotional tragedy. As the news broke, the mood on the streets of Istanbul and beyond shifted from quiet apprehension to outcry. Protests erupted not just among seasoned activists, but among ordinary citizens who have shared their lives with these street furballs.
If they had enforced the law they had passed in the past up until now, this crowd would not be here right now, and these animals would not have been killed, or such an attempt would not have been made. We say again, we will not give them any of them. We are resisting this, and will continue to do so.
The emotional resonance of the debate also awakened memories of a dark chapter in the nation's history. rekindling the ghost of a 1910 catastrophe when Ottoman authorities rounded up over 60,000 stray dogs in Istanbul and marooned them on a deserted island in the Sea of Marmara. With no sustenance, the dogs succumbed to a horrific fate, tearing each other apart in their desperation. And in the shadow of that tragedy, animal rights campaigners fear a repeat, cloaked under the guise of public safety.
We will not give you one single life of ours. Come veto this law. No member of parliament should vote yes for this law. We will make sure all supporters of the law are on the wrong side of history.
While the government asserts that it is a necessary measure for maintaining safe streets, critics remain skeptical. They argue that mass euthanasia is neither humane nor effective. Instead, they champion a large-scale sterilization campaign as a more compassionate and sustainable solution.
Those who are attacking us with a policy of war, we tell you, do not stand against the people.
Women, animals, nature, the youth, workers, laborers will bring down your order on your head. They will bring it down. Do not forget this.
Within the walls of the parliament, lawmakers who opposed to the measure staged a poignant protest. Donning white cloths, stained with fake blood to symbolize the lives at stake. The opposition Republican People's Party, which governs major cities including Istanbul, has vowed to resist the law, with mayors declaring they will not comply if it passes. The Turkish government ascertains mayors who refuse to implement the law could face imprisonment. Turkey now stands at crossroads. The choice between a future of compassionate coexistence or a repeat of past cruelties weighs heavily on the conscience of people. For now, the residents of Turkey are working hard to find future homes for the street-trotting furry canines.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
Kamala, you're fired!
I say, bring it on.
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill. We know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on First Post America.